Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and this really should be a surprise, but unfortunately, it's not. Exclusive: the Mexican father of alleged Colorado shooter Alec McKinney, 16, was jailed for domestic violence and deported twice, with his son posting how he missed him just days before the atrocity. Jose Evia Quintana, 33, was jailed for 15 months for domestic violence against McKinney's mother, Morgan Lynn McKinney, and menacing with a weapon. He's in the country illegally, has a firearm. That's illegal. Despite terrorizing Morgan, 32, he convinced her to marry him in 2009 in Castle Rock, Colorado. He was deported back to Mexico in 2010, and Morgan, who has 3 children, including Alec with Quintana, divorced him in 2015. Quintana illegally came back into the country and was deported again in 2017. Alec posted on Twitter how he missed his father just 11 days before the May 7th shooting at STEM School Highlands Ranch near Denver, Colorado. Alec and his friend Devin Erickson, 18, allegedly shot 9 students, killing 1, and will appear in court on Wednesday, May 15th. This one, honestly, I can't really point out how many things should have tipped off so many people. You have an illegal immigrant who's been deported multiple times, who had menaced someone with a weapon, been convicted of domestic violence. Why in the blue hell was this not a massive, massive thing? The other question is, why are we only receiving this from the Daily Mail in England, and it is not anywhere on mainstream media in the US? And there's some very simple answers to this. If we look at this, you show court papers show that despite Quintana terrorizing Alec's mother, he managed to convince her to marry him. Where are the feminists? Where are the Alyssa Milanos and the rest of them crying out about how he should have been just unable to even get anywhere near her? And the answer is very simple. He's an illegal immigrant. These are issues that they will not discuss and will not cross. Since you have 2 issues that they are on opposite sides of: one, letting all illegals into the country no matter what, and 2, taking the woman's side no matter what, they just ignore the story. We have Alyssa Milano calling for liberal women to not have sex with anyone because Georgia passed a bill the Georgia voters wanted. Meanwhile, we have this. Why in the blue hell is she not talking about a man who entered the country illegally at least 3 times, or I'm sorry, at least 2 times, and was deported twice, who had a firearm, which is against the law, who beat his mother, domestic violence, who threatened people with a weapon? All those crimes, they're already against the law, and that's a lot of the reason that we're getting almost no coverage on this. Because, honestly, it proves that the whole gun control mantra is wrong. The 2 shooters, both under 21, should not have had a pistol, period. It is illegal in the United States to own or possess a pistol unless you are 21 or with your guardian going hunting or at a range. Now, there are stories where children will pick up their parents' firearm when their home is being invaded, and that is the only other time that courts really won't take a stand on a child doing something because they're defending life. But this is the story of 2 teenagers who stole a pistol and attacked a school. So, of course, they ignore that the father of one is an illegal alien who's been deported twice, convicted of domestic violence, threatened people with a weapon, all of these things. They don't talk about that because it ruins their narrative. They talk about how it's just, well, we need more gun control, even though Colorado has universal background checks. And they were flouted in this case because the teenagers stole the weapons. I can understand a teenage boy missing his father. What I cannot understand is a teenage boy who watched his father abuse his mother and says nothing about it. This, honestly, to me, tells me that there may have been more going on. We don't know if there was, I don't know, if drugs, if there was abuse by the father of Alec. We don't know. But this should have been something that police got involved in years ago. At least 4 years ago, Morgan divorced the illegal alien. And He was jailed in 2009 for menacing with a weapon and domestic violence against the same woman. He's a menace. He's a criminal. And this is what the illegal immigration argument is all about. We are not anti immigrant. The policies are not anti immigrant, they are anti illegal alien. We want people to come to the door and knock. We want people to come to approved border crossings, cross into the country legally, obey our laws, and actually be productive members of society. And if they're not granted permanent status, leave when their visa runs out and apply for a new one. But liberals don't like that mantra. They don't like that explanation because it is simply what they're trying to say they are: rule of law people. They're only rule of law when Gerald Nadler wants to subpoena the AG to come read him a report that he could go read himself and be questioned and harassed by lawyer staffers, not members of the committee. They are rule of law when Don Jr., who's already testified for hours upon end before the Senate Judiciary, is subpoenaed again by the Senate Judiciary, who wants to try to trip him up. They're anti rule of law when it is an illegal alien who enters the country at least twice illegally and is deported twice, who is jailed for domestic violence, who is jailed for menacing with a weapon. They don't care about rule of law in this case because it is counter to their let everyone in, we have to be humanitarian mantra. Joe Biden is on the campaign trail now telling us we have an obligation to provide medical care to the world when we have American veterans killing themselves 22 a day. We even have a story where one killed themselves at the VA. We have veterans waiting weeks and months for treatment while illegal immigrants can go to any hospital they want, and they already have Medicare and other things provided by the government. It, it it just blows my mind. Honestly, it does. We have court papers said Quintana wishes to stay in custody, but that's the only mention that anything was actually ever done. And honestly, having known people who have violent tendencies and who have drug issues and so on, having known people like that, they'll say anything they want or anything they can to get people to stop trying to force them to fix their life. Quintana said this in what is likely an attempt to curry favor with the court, to say, well, he's trying, he's working on it, so we can let him out and just mandate treatment. In all of this, it is just a complete failure of the U.S. justice system. It honestly is. Quintana is an illegal alien who's been deported twice. Twice. That alone should set off red warning lights all over everyone's mind. How did he get back into the country after being deported? This is why we need border law enforcement. People say, well, the majority of them come in and just overstay visas. Well, a lot of that can be fixed too by enforcement, by telling mayors like Libby Schaff and the judges like the one up in the Northeast that you don't shelter illegals. Someone overstays their visa and we don't have record of them leaving the country, we come and we find out why. We are not heartless either. Imagine two scenarios. Someone here on a student visa, and their student visa expires, and it's the middle of the summer, and they don't even put in an application for an extension. They're just going to not even do anything. That's the kind of person who needs to be sent back to their home country and said reapply. Someone comes in on a tourist visa to visit family, and their family member falls desperately ill and is in the hospital, and this person doesn't know their visa expired, and they're sitting in the hospital with their family praying for a miracle. That's the kind of thing where the agent could say, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to bring you some forms. I need you to fill them out, and we're going to work on this, but we got to follow the law, but we can work with. When someone comes across the southern border, sneaks in, and we know for a fact there are parts of the southern border where the only barrier is nature, or what amounts to an obscenely short hitching post. A bollard, really. And we need to fix that. The border wall is not closing the border. We honestly should for a time while we build it. But the border wall is not going to be, we're closed. The border wall is, hi, you can't cross here. Please proceed to an authorized crossing point. It's the same as the gigantic wall on the front of any big box grocery store. You can walk up to a Kroger, to an Albertsons, to any of them, and you'll see a gigantic barrier to just walking in at any point along that wall. You'll see also at least one, if not two or three, breaks in that barrier, which are doors. It funnels the incoming traffic to a certain point. Same thing that the border wall will do. It will funnel people like Quintana to authorized border crossings who, when he or when they get there and we find out, oh, this person has a domestic violence charge, menacing with a weapon charge. They've been deported. No, sir, you may not enter this country. Please leave. That is what the border wall does, and it will work. We know walls work. Look at the Vatican, look at Israel, look at other countries in Europe that have built border barriers. Look at the sections of our border where we have a barrier. Macau and El Paso specifically. Crime went down when the wall went up. The problem is liberals and their sycophants in Congress don't care about logic and facts. Because if crime goes down, then costs go down, the economy does better, people will realize the Democrats are doing nothing for us. So they jump on shootings and say we need gun control. And they ignore situations like this, where the shooters stole the weapons, were too young to possess them anyway, and still were able to do it because they don't care what the law is. Very simply, any law does one of two very different things, different purposes. For the law abiding people like me, laws against murder, laws against speeding, laws against trespass, they tell me that I don't want to do this because there is a consequence if I do. For people like we see here, the law saying you can't murder people, the law saying you shouldn't steal a weapon, the law saying you're too young to have that pistol, they do nothing to stop them, but they lay out a framework for punishment. That's the one thing that if the laws don't work, why have any laws? Idiots don't get. The laws deter the law abiding, the good people of the country, from breaking the law. And they lay out a guidance and a framework for punishment for those who would do it no matter what. And Democrats know this, and they don't care. They're pushing gun control because, just like King George in the 1770s, they know they cannot rule the country with an iron fist if people have the ability to defend themselves against tyrants. This is a tragedy, and unfortunately, within a day of it, Mom's Demand had already sent someone to politicize it. And stories like this are ignored because stories like this prove that there are far more things involved and that the liberal side of politics is never going to get things done. But I've talked about this long enough. I will post a link in the description so you can read the entire article for yourself. I am trying kind of a new platform, a new way of doing this, because me reading a story to you honestly and then talking for a couple of minutes is not really what I'm used to doing. I skim a story, I pick out bits and pieces that I reference, but then I give you my take on the story. I give you my stance. And that's what I did when I was teaching. I would read the source material. I would make notes and I would bring up specific things. When teaching the Civil War, secession basically hit in 1860, and 5 years later, 1865, we had already lost Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War ended, beginning the antebellum Reconstruction. I know the topic, so I can talk about it more than what's in the written material. So I'm going to be working on that. I'd like you to let me know what you think of the new format. As always, let me know what you think in the comments. Just keep them civil. We do not learn from argument, we learn from debate. Please also remember to like and share this article, as well as to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're among the first to know of all new content as it is posted. Until next time, everyone have a wonderful day.